Breaking news as the Challenger report announces that we have more job cuts in February than we've had since the 2009 global financial crisis. Think about that for 1 second. Now, headlines are promoting that the economy added 155,000 jobs. But when we look under the hood at the household survey, we see we've lost 862,000 full-time jobs in just 1 month, while adding at the same time, this is crazy, guys, in just 1 month, 1.05 million part-time jobs. Meanwhile, according to the most recent Challenger report, government job cuts are up 41,000. Again, 41,000%. And the housing market continues its slow burn into annihilation as sales are down somehow 6% year over year. You guys, no one can afford a home because we're not making enough money to afford a home without a high probability of bankruptcy. And so in today's video, we're going to ask important questions like, why such a massive narrative difference between the establishment survey versus the household survey? And what would need to happen for the housing market to come back to normal? And welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. I hope you guys are having a great day. Today's video is going to be absolutely bonkers. And you guys, you still have shirts and coffee mugs finally below. It took about 3 years. Want to help grow the community. We make almost no money. Mitch Vexler, how are you today, sir?
What we're about to go through here with regard to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, usually I say things are all good, but there's a lot of problems here, and we're going to get into it in this video right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So the viewers, if you gain value in this video, don't forget to like it, share it, and comment below. Let us know what you learned. And other than that, hope you guys enjoy. This is the news release from the Bureau of Labor Statistics out March 7th, 2025, the employment situation for February of 2025. Total non-farm payroll employment rose by 151,000 in February, and the unemployment rate changed little at 4.1%. Again, very optimistic, no caution here whatsoever. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today, employment trended up in healthcare, financial activities, transportation, and warehousing, and social assistance. Federal government employment declined, but they don't mention exactly by how much. When we go under the hood at page 20, schedule A9, we're going to be able to see and differentiate where the job growth was, if at all, by taking a look at full-time versus part-time. And then we're also going to take a look at total multiple job holders. Now, before I dig in here, let me show you guys the column. All we're going to do is look at January to February, not seasonally adjusted. Now, let me zoom in here, okay, now that you guys know that. And let's start looking at this information. So for full-time, let's look at that first, okay? So full-time January, this is where we were at. We're at 134.234 million full-time jobs. Now, in just 1 month, that actually went down, as you guys can see here that I've highlighted, to 133.372 million. When all is said and done, I've already done the math for you guys, that equals 862 full-time jobs that we've lost in only 1 single month. But when we go to the row under this and we look at part-time jobs, we can see that part-time jobs were actually replacing those full-time jobs. In January, we're sitting at 28.113 million part-time jobs, but February, that actually went up to 29.172 million, meaning the difference is 1.059 million. So again, you guys, we've had 1 million part-time jobs, according to this survey, in just 1 single month. That's pretty crazy. Now, when we go down to multiple job holders right here, when we look at January, we can see that multiple job holders was sitting at 8.643 million. Now, when we fast forward to February, that goes up to 9.036 million, which means 393,000 more people got another job in just 1 single month. Mitch, the first thing I wanted to ask you is, what's the bigger surprise, losing 862,000 full-time jobs or gaining allegedly over 1 million part-time jobs? What's the bigger surprise here for you?
Well, the loss of jobs is no surprise. We've been saying that's been coming for the last 4 or 5 months because that's what the math shows. A, B, whatever information they're getting is from a lagging indicator. C, with regard to the idea that we have more part-time jobs now in process, that's highly suspect. D, you mentioned the financial activities in the report. Well, everything that I'm looking at shows banks closing physically. So when you have loss of jobs there, well, where's all that accounted for? So how could finance activities be increasing when bank locations are closing and decreasing? So bottom line is, this is all highly suspect, other than the fact that if you go to a grocery store and ask mom and pop, do you have friends that are unemployed or being laid off? Pretty well everybody knows somebody that's being laid off. So as far as I'm concerned, these reports are complete nonsense.
I mean, do you have any idea why there's such a big discrepancy in narrative for establishment versus household? Why such a big discrepancy in that narrative, Mitch?
I think the economists, and there's a lot of people who make their living as, quote, an economist, and they get hired by these institutions. The truth of the matter is, most of them are clueless. You want the truth? Just tell the truth. Go to a grocery store. Ask mom and pop. You want the truth? Look at the median household income. It's right in front of you. We've been pounding the table on that. Do you see any Fred report that mentions median household income? Doesn't exist. So they're all there to paint a narrative. The problem is the narrative has come home to roost. So they've proven their own ignorance. They've proven their own arrogance. And unfortunately, it will end up with a lot of them being laid off by virtue of what it is that they've done to society. And unfortunately, the lies that they've told are backing up now on mom and pop.
And, what do you think another over 390,000 more people getting multiple jobs? What does that tell us about the strength of the household and the strength of the economy? I mean, if the economy is adding all these jobs and you can just get a second job, what is that telling us under the hood, Mitch?
It tells me that the divorce rate is going to be going up.
Jeez.
Right?
Why? Yeah. Why you say that?
Because the amount of people that have to take on 2 and 3 jobs, what sort of life does the family have when one of the parents isn't there in order to keep that household afloat? It's not good. Like, nobody should have to take on 3 jobs in order to keep the roof over their head. That's going to break somebody's back. It's not healthy. It's not economically viable. And it's based on the fraud that's in the system. Like I said, the fraud has come home to roost. And this is going to get worse until they simply say, that's it. We are going to flush, give or take 70% of these bonds down the drain. We're going to flush all this fraud down the drain, and we're going to fix the system. Until then, unfortunately, I believe the divorce rate's going to start skyrocketing.
That is a huge, huge, huge tragedy in America, the divorce rate. I mean, families, household families, and keeping them together, so important for society and for community and for just the health of living. Now, Mitch, I want to go into the Challenger report as well that just came out for February. That's going to paint a much clearer picture, especially with job cuts related to the government. Here's the Challenger report for February of 2025. This is a pretty good report. Now, this starts out by saying job cuts surge on Doge actions, retail woes highest monthly total since July of 2020. When US-based employers announced 172,000 job cuts in February. That is the highest total for the month since 2009, when 186,350 job cuts were recorded. Think about that. Last time we had this many job cuts was during the global financial crisis, and that was announced. Right now we have 172,000, and there is no recession announced. Think of what's going to happen when a recession is actually announced. February's total is a 245% increase from the 49,795 cuts announced 1 month prior. It is a 103% increase from the 84,000 cuts announced at the same month last year, so year over year. Now, here's the chart. This is actually pretty crazy right here. This is January to February, and this is 2009 to 2025. And you can see, again, the trajectory of job cuts are signaling a recession. I don't know why this is not talked about more. Again, the trajectory, you can see we've been battered for 3 years. Let me read this last part right here. So far this year, employers announced 221,812 job cuts, the highest year-to-date total since 2009 when 428,000 job cuts were planned. It is up 33% from the 166,000 cuts announced during the same time period in 2024. Now, this is absolutely mind-blowing. When we go to which industries are cutting the most, take a look at this, Mitch. Government and DOGE. The government led all sectors in job cuts in February. Challenger tracked a whopping 62,242 announced job cuts by the federal government from 17 different agencies last month. So far this year, the government has cut 62,530 jobs, which is an increase. Sit down for this, everyone. And I'm going to say it's very slowly, which is an increase of 41,311% from the tiny little bit of 151 cuts announced through February of 2024. That is a massive swing in momentum in the government sector. It appears, this goes on, it appears the administration wants to cut even more workers. But in order to fire the roughly 200,000 probationary employees, again, there's another 200,000 probationary employees. Don't you guys think that sometime this year that another 200,000 employees are going to be lost that are probationary? And how does that impact other areas of the job market? Think about it. However, that was blocked by a federal judge. It remains to be seen how many more workers will lose their federal government roles. When mass layoffs occur, it often leaves remaining staff feeling uneasy and uncertain, obviously. The likelihood that many more workers leave voluntarily is high. Now, let me read this last part right here about retail sales, because retail sales are also getting rocked, which probably has to do with consumer purchasing power being destroyed. Retailers followed with 38,956 job cut plans for a total of 45,000. That is a 572% increase from the 6,751 retail job cuts announced just 2 months of 2024. This is painting a much, much different picture. Now, when we look at this, the top 5 industries for year-to-date job cuts, and we just started out the year, here's government, that leads at 62,000, retail number 2 at 45,000, and look at technology still up here at 22,000, services 13, consumer products at 12.9. I'm really surprised healthcare isn't in here. This is also very interesting when it says job cuts by reason. Look at number 1 reason right here, Mitch, DOGE actions at 63,583 job cuts from DOGE alone. Now, what I'm really interested to follow along is right down here above our heads where it says DOGE downstream impact. It's saying we've only had 894 job cuts as a result of the downstream impact. I expect that to absolutely skyrocket, especially for contractors. But look at this. Number 2 reason is the market/economic conditions. Number 3, bankruptcy. That's crazy. 4, restructuring. 5, closing down. That's also really, really interesting. When we go to announced hiring plans for February, you can see that it is up year over year and since 2023, but historically it is pretty low. So I'm interested, Mitch, to see if their company is really going to hire 34,580 people. Mitch, my first question is, can you explain what you believe DOGE's impact is going to be moving forward, specifically for the labor market? Are they going to start and continue to fire a whole bunch of people? I mean, and to the viewers, you guys are seeing the trend now. We have data. What do you say, Mitch?
This report is somewhat disingenuous. I don't disagree that DOGE is having an impact on the amount of people being fired from the government. I hope that, and I believe it will continue to the point of give or take about 1.1 million that will end up losing their jobs. The reason why the report is somewhat disingenuous, it's not the fact that DOGE has found the fraud in the system and they're going after it. It's the fact that the fraud even exists. Unfortunately, because the fraud exists, the ramifications of those people being hired in the first place was based on a fraud. It was based on a political position, and the political position has failed. And the ramifications when they say, well, but Doge is bigger than all these other sectors. Well, that's stupid. The government is bigger than all these other sectors. And that is the fraud. And that makes the Challenger report highly suspect. Now, I'm not disagreeing with the theory that, yes, these are real jobs and yes, these are real people that are being impacted. But you have to tell the truth. And Challenger, you're not telling the truth. You're painting a picture. You are painting an illusion, and you're blaming the illusion on Doge. That's the wrong spot to be putting the blame if you're going to do it, first thing. Second thing is, at the bottom of that report, it should say what the percentage of the sectors are that you're referring to. As a percentage, what percentage of the retail sector takes into account the unemployment? What percentage of the government sector as a size of the overall population takes into account the unemployment? Then you get to the truth. You come across a guy like me who understands how to pull these numbers apart, and you look like a fool. And you're misleading the public. You are no better than all these other people that we have already called out at the DOJ. Get your act together.
Well, Mitch, for the viewers, can you explain what is the truth and where should the blame go?
It's hard to say what the truth is without the full set of numbers. But when you have government employees not knowing what their job is or unfamiliar with how to do a job, you were paid to do a job. You are getting a check. You're supposed to know what that job is. You're supposed to be able to execute that job. And if people end up in jobs that A, they may not be trained for, which is a whole other problem, B, they don't know what to do, well, that's a problem with the senior advisors of that entity. So there's problems up and down the chain. The answer to your question is it's hard to figure this all out as to who should have a job and who shouldn't have a job based on the overall cost and what is the effect on the economy. But that goes everywhere. I mean, you and I, we hit on Boeing, we hit on FedEx, UPS, Costco. I mean, it goes on and on and on, and it ends up in most of these circumstances, there is a pattern here, which is people get hired that shouldn't have had the job. The job really didn't exist in the first place. The CEOs are painting a picture to help boost their stock on the back of these people that they're hiring. Hey, look, we're hiring all these people. Things must be great. Yet 60 or 90 days later, they jettison these people. That's wrong. And the truth is, both at the government level and the corporate level, they're painting a picture. They're painting an illusion. It's like Costco coming out and saying, well, yeah, we're firing all these people over here, but oh, by the way, we're building 25 new stores. How much you want to bet the CEO's pay is tied to the theory that, well, we're going to increase the share price because we're adding 25 new stores, right? It's an illusion. People have got to see through this nonsense and call the nonsense out when they see it. That's why we're in this real estate tax problem. It's been there. People have known it. They couldn't articulate it to the point now where we've literally had to file criminal complaints at the Department of Justice. It's the only way to offset this is call them out, press charges.
Well, yeah, and we'll continue to call them out. And one thing that's not an illusion, Mitch, is the pattern and practice of greed, corruption, and fraud at the expense of innocent tax-paying Americans or just human beings in general. But regardless, let's go into the housing market. Let me show you the most recent report from Redfin, and let me get your reaction on it. This is Redfin's most recent housing market report titled Pending Home Sales Are Down, again, shockingly, because the housing market's already been in the gutter. We have more population. Sales are worse than the global financial crisis. I mean, do the math. That's probably why we haven't had full price discovery yet. Mortgage rates are starting to attract buyers. I doubt that highly. Mortgage rates dipped to their lowest level in nearly 3 months this week, which has pushed mortgage purchase applications up. But, and there's a but here, guys, pending home sales are still falling. Southern California has bucked the trend with pending sales increasing. I'm going to add that's probably temporary as a result of the fires. Now, pending U.S. home sales fell 6.4% from a year earlier during the 4 weeks ending March 2nd, the second biggest decline since November 2023. Sales are sluggish because the median U.S. sales price is up 3.2%, and the typical home buyer's monthly housing payment is just $26 shy of all-time highs. Think about that. That's insane. Plus, some prospective buyers are wary about making a big purchase amid economic uncertainty, including concerns about tariffs, slowing economic growth, and layoffs. But homeowners have gotten some relief in the past week as the daily average 30-year fixed rate mortgage has dipped to 6.7%, the lowest level in nearly 3 months. That seems to have brought some people off the sidelines as mortgage purchase applications rose 9% week over week. What's interesting is when we go into some of the leading indicators, we can first see right here, mortgage applications are actually only up 2%. So that's very interesting. Redfin home buying demand is down 3%. Okay, very interesting. People searching for homes for sale online is unchanged. That's also very interesting. Let me show you guys this. Now, median sales price is up 3.2% year over year. That's the smallest increase since September. Here's the median monthly mortgage payment sitting at $2,772. That's only 26 off the all-time high. Here's your pending sales right here. That's down 6.4%. Now, new listings is up. That's good. We want it up even more than that, up 2.4% year over year. Active listings almost at 1 million. Sitting at 918,795. That is also up year over year at 9.8%. Monthly supply of homes sitting at 4.4. That's really, really good. Now, let me show you guys the winners and losers, and we'll wrap this up. As far as the metros with the biggest year over year increases, number one is Milwaukee at an increase of 16.2%. Number two, Nashua County at 12%. Cleveland, number three, at 10.7%. Pittsburgh at 9.4%. Anaheim at 9.3%. Now, remember, you guys, it's about hyper local subdivision analysis. You got to see what homes are selling for around the subject properties. You can find homes here for under market value, and then the losers, you can find homes for over market value. Research is important. Now look at the metro areas with the biggest year over year declines. Now we have declines in 7 different metro areas. The leading metro area, of course, is Austin, Texas, down 4% year over year. Tampa, Florida is number 2, down 1.3. Atlanta, number 3 at 1.3. Jacksonville, Florida, so 2 Floridas at 1.2% down year over year. Second, Texas Metro, San Antonio down 1%, Houston down 0.6%, and Fort Worth down 0.2%. Texas is getting annihilated as far as prices. Mitch, to the best of your ability, in a fairly short amount of time, we don't have 5 hours. I'm sure we could both take that long. But what would need to happen in the housing market for it to go back to normal?
More than likely, given the fraud that's in the system, depending on at what point and what year you would determine what normal is, we're going to have a serious devaluation of outstanding bonds. When you have houses, as in Argyle, Texas, that have $243,000 in outstanding school bond debt per household, well, that's never existed in the history of the United States. Godly, Texas, $90,000 outstanding school bond debt per household, where the average value of a house is $160,000. So the outstanding school bond debt is 50%, 52% respectively. Well, this is a huge problem because this is going on across the United States. And if you say, for the sake of conversation, that every house has $50,000 of outstanding bond debt across the United States, that's the equivalent of $7 trillion of outstanding bond debt. And you could say, okay, fine, let's just say for the sake of conversation, it's worth 30 cents on the dollar. Well, that's great. Here's your problem. That leaves over $5 trillion of fraudulent outstanding bond debt. There is no money to pay for it. So it's a really interesting question as to what normal is, but normal under any circumstance and under the 16th Amendment to the US Constitution, normal would be defined as no real estate tax on any property. That's normal. What we're in is pure fraud. The other thing is, when you said 6% of the pending home sales being down, well, okay. But if we could impart a message to everybody that's listening, all real estate is local. Trust your eyes. And as far as all these reports and all this nonsense being thrown at you by all those who have a vested interest in throwing it at you, trust your eyes. It's all local. Drive around the local subdivisions. Take a look. Look at how many houses are now popping up for sale. Never mind the 6%. That's just somebody's theory. It's a number. They're throwing it at you. Drive around your subdivisions and see for yourself. That will tell you the truth. It really is us trying to communicate, think differently. Don't trust these numbers. Don't trust the Challenger report. Don't trust the unemployment report. Talk to people. Ask them, how many people do you know that are being laid off? How many people do you know that are unemployed? Is this happening to your friends? Get the picture straight from the horse's mouth. Speak to mom and pop. That helps build community and it gives you the ability to think differently.
Well said, sir. And quick reminder to the viewers, don't forget, whether you own a home or not, we've made an empowerment center for you. It is free. Go there. So if you don't own a home, I have courses made for you and forms made for you to learn how to increase your purchasing power as you're waiting. Then plus just understanding the math on how to buy real estate. In other words, you guys don't use your emotions, right? Use common sense. Drive around the neighborhood, like Mitch is saying, use the math, but not your emotions. And certainly do not trust anyone that makes profit off of real estate. All they are generally is wolf in sheep's clothing. Now, if you already own a home, help us eliminate property taxes forever. Remember, we have an entire course dedicated to ending property tax. The link is in the description. Don't forget to do that. And also, you guys, if you've started filling out your criminal complaints to end property taxes, please email Mitch and I. Give us a status update. We are so proud of you. We cannot do this without you. And just a real quick shout out, you guys, we need your help. Please help us. And other than that, you guys, if you're out there investing in real estate, investing in your life, whatever it is you're doing, you guys already know we wish you luck and we hope you win.